Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we have another draft profile. Andrew Cristall out of the WHL. Good friend Sam McGilligan makes his return to talk about Cristall, all the dangles, just the intelligence for this player, and some suspect skating. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. You can follow or subscribe wherever you get podcasts, and of course, episodes come out first on YouTube as well, so make sure you guys are following along there. Second episode of the day. Again, there's going to be 6 episodes this week and probably 6 again next week as we continue to kind of, get caught up. I know I enjoyed my vacation, but I owe you guys the content that you guys desire. And Sam joins to talk about Andrew Cristall, who's a super, super fun prospect. Crazy range, potential top 10, potential back into the first round. Really, really fun prospect to talk about. So hope you guys enjoy. And now we bring in Sam McGilligan back to the show of McKeen's Hockey to talk about one of his favorite players. He was very excited about Andrew Cristall when we first kind of started getting my board together. How's it going, buddy?
It's going great, man. How are you?
Hanging in there. The season is over. No more late nights of watching Sharks get pummeled 6-2 and have to try to figure out how to talk about that game for 20 to 25 minutes. So I know you're probably feeling the same way with the Habs season being over as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be a liar if I said that I watched as many games or even as many as you do, because I've been watching other hockey as well. But it hasn't been a season full of victories.
No,
it's been a season full of injuries, and it's been devastating on that effect.
All the Habs are dead, unfortunately. So we're going to talk about one forward, Andrew Cristall. If you're new to the program or just kind of jumping in, so what we do is we break down the player, kind of talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, where they would fit in the Sharks pipeline, kind of their timeline to the NHL, all that fun stuff. And then we're going to talk some bigger draft stuff with Sam at the end. But Andrew Cristall, he's a forward out of Kelowna in the WHL. 5'10", 165 pounds. This season in 54 games, he played. He had 39 goals, 56 assists, and 218 shots on goal. Sam, let's start here. What makes Cristall such an intriguing prospect?
He is one of the most creative players I have ever seen. I'm trying to be as careful about not using exaggeratory terms so that when I use them for Cristal, they actually mean something. This is a thought that I've kind of had all year. There's been 2 of them. One of them is he escapes situations that I'm almost convinced he's about to lose the puck in more than any player, which we'll
kind of like Nightcrawler. He just kind of
he just sneaks out of situations and turns them into crazy good chances for the team and ways that just shock you. And the other part of it is just he has this innate ability to create stuff by drawing players towards him. He really benefits from the fact that he knows how to draw people in, what move he wants to set up to make people commit their weight, and then he knows how to dance around them to find pockets of space to exit out of, and what play he wants to make coming out of that. Sometimes he'll even go as far as faking the play he wants to make coming out of that to make a defender really kind of stretch and overcommit, and then he'll attack what's left behind. A lot of this is just built on the fact that he's super maneuverable in small spaces and one of the best handlers I've just seen. He's just incredible with the puck. He has some high-end talent that so few have. Mm-hmm. There is, I say this as he's my second favorite player of the year. And he has he doesn't have the explosive skating that all of these other players who have this type of draft profile do. They don't. He just doesn't have that. He's a fantastic skater laterally. He really like finds space in that sense, but he doesn't have that explosivity to really drive by somebody. And there's debate on whether his mechanics are fixable. I don't lean into this type of stuff because I don't want to be involved in a debate that I don't know the the kinesiology behind and stuff like that. But I do think that he is a remarkable case study going forward. He's one of the most unique situations that you'll see from a player where it's like the upside talent could literally be like the Marner to the McDavid of this draft class. But he does not have the skating of Marner. Like you can't compare him to Marner, but let's just say like everything goes well, best case scenario, Fantilli is Eichel, then if I'm picking a Marner, in a lot of ways I'm thinking Cristal is that player. I want him to be a thing so bad. I'm not even I'm not convinced whatsoever that he doesn't play. I'm just convinced that it's possible he does so in like a supporting offensive role in like the middle six, and he's not too good defensively, so maybe he's more of a power play guy. But the upside there, what he can do at 5v5, the way he sets plays up is just, he's thinking levels in advance of other players at this level. It's just, man, it's incredible.
It's really amazing. All right, so there's a lot there. So you talk about the way he kind of thinks the game and his creativity and stuff. What about kind of, and you talk about his skating, it might be an issue. What about kind of just like the tangible skills? Like what if those you think are his NHL ready? Like his shot, his vision, his passing, like what do you think?
His vision, his sense for the game, and his ability to just read and understand what makes space open up. That's all NHL ready. It's figuring out how to do it at NHL pace is always like an adjustment period, and it makes players like him seem like they're not ready, but he is ready to read that game. Problem is he would never be able to keep up with the game right now, and that would it would just be a complete detriment. Like he's not an NHL ready player, but he reads like a player does at that level, and he doesn't just read like an NHLer does. Sometimes you see guys and they just make fast decisions, and you're like, you play with pace, but you might not execute high level plays at that pace.
Yeah,
he 1000% has the sense to do it. And the way he can just manipulate layers of a defense at one time, like he will set up a move on a defender one way so that the secondary defender who's playing support is watching him and is kind of prepared to, if he gets by him, he's going to get into this space. Then Cristal escapes one way. Both guys are like, oh crap. And then he makes a play through them at that point. That's the type of stuff where it's like, okay, well, he definitely knows what he's doing when he's toying with defenders, because everybody played that situation correctly. Nobody was drastically out of position or anything like that. They all made it work. He's one of those guys, like, not only because you have those guys, right, who can process the game quickly, but they're just not able to execute those high-end maneuvers. Then you have those guys who can execute the high-end maneuvers, but they can't process this. Kind of like Ryan Merkley, right? You see, like, Ryan Merkley would try to do cool stuff, and you would see him do cool stuff, right? But then he would try to not realize like, hey, I can't keep adding to this type of situation, and that's what will get him in a lot of trouble. It seems like he can do both, and he seems like he's a super fun guy to play with because he's just going to make everybody on the ice run them better, right? Kind of, yeah. Like there are situations where. Right now, I guess the easiest way of saying this is that right now, Cristal is the type of guy who's going to make everyone's lives easier in the offensive zone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think his transitional game is impressive fundamentally, but it's not. Right now, it's only used in a way where he kind of doesn't play too actively in the defensive zone. So he kind of just sits at the blue line, gets the puck. He already has a stride on guys, so he doesn't have to. His lack of top end speed doesn't harm him here. It's made up by that. But you don't want to say
cherry picking, but he's a little bit cherry picking.
It is, but it's almost structured into the team. Like it's not like he's blatantly like they want him.
The coach wants him to. He's doing what the coach asks him. Yeah. So.
And I'll also say that I notice a lot of the time when I see him make little cuts into spaces just when he's waiting for that puck, where he makes the read and the defender who has the puck hasn't even considered that he could be there. There's no pass coming. There's no look there. And it's just a lot of time I'm like, I do think higher level players are just going to see that and want to execute it. And he's there with his head up looking for the guy to pass it to. So even he can play that in a bumper role. He can carry the puck if he has the space. And if he gets any skating improvements, there's no player in the draft who comes close in terms of like exponential gain through skating improvements. If he got elite NHL skating, he's one of the, since I've been doing this since I'll say 2020, I will say he might be the second or third player who might actually go, okay, maybe I wouldn't bet on it ever, but 100 points. Okay. That's, I imagine
there's a world.
Yeah. He does have this Marner, Kane, that style of player, just like absurdity to him at time, but the tools undeniably lack behind all of them. Yeah. So it's just, and you can't expect him to be that player. I think realistically, he probably ends up as just a strong second line, just top six forward, not a star, but just a top six forward. But those are never a bad player to pick. And if you're getting one of those at like 10th and overall or later, you're doing extremely well. I think before, when we briefly mentioned him on the last podcast, I had him at 5 or 6 or something like that. And I have come down a bit to around 9 or 10. But that's just mostly because this draft is absurd. Like, I still stand by my read on him. It's just there's a lot of really interesting players who have similar upside and are more likely to kind of reach it, where with Cristal, he's the one with the most question marks in the top tier, basically.
I mean, that's skating, that's kind of a big thing, right? You do skate to play hockey, and it's like you said, it's not like he's terrible at it, but like there's just the guy, like when you're getting to these, like, kind of after that first 4 of Bedard, Fantilli, Leo Carlson, and Michkov, and even Michkov as a wild card, you could say he goes anywhere from 3 to 10, and I wouldn't be shocked, right? But after then, you have to start kind of picking nits a little bit about, like, okay, like Benson and Will Smith and Cristal, and like kind of that's the whole draft game here, is trying to figure out how these 17, 18-year-old kids are going to turn out to be in 5, 6, 7 type of years, type of things.
And there's a lot of paths that they can go down.
All right, before we continue our conversation with Sam, we talk about kind of where Cristal would fit in the Sharks prospect pool, kind of where he might get drafted, just that huge range that Cristal could potentially fit in. I do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, double plays are back, and there's no better place to get on MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I always enjoy same-game parlay of Ohtani doing something awesome, maybe 10 strikeouts, and the Angels still losing, because that is the most Angels thing ever to happen. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so, other than his skating and, of course, adding some bulk, because 165 pounds at 5'10". What do you think is the other thing that he needs to kind of work on as he progresses and becomes an NHL player?
Well, at some point, your coach is just going to start getting very mad at you if you're not activating into the defensive zone. I don't want to speak as if I don't watch Kelowna outside of Cristall and Price, which means that I don't have the best grasp on their system when these guys aren't on the ice. Like, I'm used to them playing a certain way, and they kind of end up being on the ice together a lot. So from what I see just from a video footage afar, Cristal is extremely inactive in the offense or in the defensive zone. He is active and creates lanes that I don't think teammates hit, but that doesn't change the fact that he's still not doing anything. And like, you can absolutely argue at some point, like, man, There
you
are
gotta
sometimes
do
when play can come near him and he can play, he reads it right and he can execute it right, which is how you know he can read the game. So it's less of a concern of like, I don't believe you can do it. And it's more like, well, we're talking about things you got to improve. You will have to be doing this more. So it would be nice to see it happening because like you're going to need to work on it and you can do it. So it's just about getting the game reps in. So it is something I'm going to be looking forward to. I wouldn't call it a death sentence if it doesn't happen. The AHL will clean that up pretty quickly.
Yes.
I think he's a little easy to push off the puck right now. Again, that comes to the strength, but it also comes just from sometimes you can't skill your way through absolutely everything. And there is a little combination of flaws that is kind of a little scary if they don't get addressed or like they don't fundamentally change. It's the fact that he draws people's in, but he doesn't like contact. That's terrifying. And he's also not explosive skater. This is like, that combination of thing is like a very good reason why small players slip through the draft. He's going to go later than people think. Okay. Bob McKenzie's list is going to come out and people are going to see Cristal and they're going to go, whoa, what? I don't know for sure. It's not, but I just, when I watch him more and more, I know there's some people who are starting to just go, okay, I love so much of it and I want it to work, but like wanting it to work and is it going to are two different things. Obviously, I think most people are still on the side of it works. And I'm sure there's a lot of individual scouts in the NHL who are super high on him, but like as a team perspective right now, I'm sure teams are looking at him and like, we can only get one player with our first round pick. Do we really want to draft a guy who might just not be an NHL player if he doesn't change his game? Not saying that that's the best logic, because I think that's a really pessimistic outlook and you want to draft a player and believe in the best of them. And there's a lot of ways you can make this really bountiful, but if security is the name of the game, it's the 2023 draft. There are some secure players who are going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of flip. Yeah. Thinking about like if your team maybe like Arizona, who has 2 picks in the top 15, using that first pick on a guy like a Benson or a Smith or whoever, and then you can kind of take a swing at number 12. And if Cristal pans out, you're looking at 2 elite guys, not elite, but 2 awesome guys coming out in the top 15. And if he doesn't, like you said, you're probably at least getting a middle 6 forward type of guy. We know that like the Coyotes, who have a bajillion, they've been drafting a bajillion guys recently. So just another complementary piece for your system. It doesn't have to be the guy. Your entire franchise isn't hinging on Cristal working out for you type of situation. So
I think that's the best situation for him to go to, where it's a team that still believes in him quite a bit based on where he went, but it's not the end all be all of the draft. Kind of like Noah Ostlund for the Sabres last year.
Yep. Makes sense.
That would be a better spot. Or Montreal. They won't do it, but or Montreal. We have 2 firsts. Just saying. Zach Benson and Andrew Cristall, the dream's still up there.
There you go. A man can dream right there. All right. Where I know you're not heavily involved with Sharks prospects, but if the Sharks somehow manage to get him, I think he's not going to be there when the Sharks aren't going to pick him at number 4 or 5 or 6 or wherever they end up in the lottery. God forbid they fall to 6. But and he's probably not going to be there for the Sharks at wherever the Devils pick ends up being 25, 26, 27, 28.
He might.
He might. Who knows? We've seen crazy things go. Sharks end up picking him. Where would he kind of fit in with the prospects? I assume whoever the Sharks pick with this pick is going to be number 1. Ekland's going to be number 2. And then where do you think he kind of fits in?
It all, like, these things are always interesting because it just kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're talking about like what prospects have the high end ceilings that can really help a franchise out, I'd say it'd be comparable to Montreal with Lane Hudson. Just how like Hudson
an absolute was taken monster this year.
Yeah, right. But like Hudson slipped for a lot of reasons, and those reasons are still valid. Like this season didn't invalidate them, but it did confirm that the reason for the hype was also warranted. So we're still in this like awkward middle. Cristal's going to be in this stage for the next few years. People aren't going to be, I don't think you're going to get the answer until it's about his 3rd year after the draft. And you're looking at him and it's like, where are you right now? Because that's likely going to tell me where he is and where he isn't. So if you look at it like that, Lane Hudson is argued as maybe top 3, top 4 in almost any pool. So even without knowing the Sharks too much, Cristal could be your 3rd or 4th guy a year from now, and people would be ecstatic about it, not even upset. Like they'd be just like bumping everyone down the list happily and going like, look how deep the prospect pool is and look how sick that dude at number 3 is. There's there's also people who value the safety in players like Bstead and the like, and no matter what, like there's a lot of situations in the past where players like Cristal get ranked higher in a prospect list and then they don't make it. And then
they don't pan out
afterwards who are safety. And there's that group of the fan base who are like, I told you he was number 3. And they aren't wrong for their reasoning.
Yeah. I mean, again, for Sharks fans, point to Ryan Merkley, who was the best prospect in the Sharks pool for a long time. That's probably because they just didn't have any other good prospects that's what happens when you're, playing for Stanley Cups for 15 years. But, and now the Sharks have done a good job of trying to rebuild it.
So
they're working on trying. I think they still need that guy who can kind of be the, Batman or Robin to William Eklund, whichever one you want to put first. But having that guy with Eklund,
either or.
Point, I can't. I mean, I love William Eklund. You can't.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. He's going to be great. So, all right, timeline, I assume. So a couple more years of juniors, probably a year or 2 in the AHL, and then especially if he needs to iron out his defensive issues.
If he's still physically not capable of pulling his game off in 3 or 4 years from now, I'm going to start being a little more concerned. Right now, if he's drilled with a skating coach for the next 2 years and he's committed to it, which from all accounts of what I've heard about the kid, he'll be committed to it. If he gets that, he just, the usual, he's spending his time in the gym and then he's just refining things. He's activating a little bit more defensively. He could probably be in the NHL at 20 years old.
Wow.
Which is bold. Like there's a lot of people.
That's everything goes right. Yeah.
That is an everything goes right thing. But I think with him, it's just an interesting case of like, well, it's either mostly going to go right or the people who were skeptical were right, because it's not like unless he like is just the case of a guy who just improves his skating for 7 straight years and then is a late bloomer. And in that you're just entering like unique case studies at that point. Like you can't account for that at the time of the draft. So with the way most players tend to develop 3 years after the fact, he's either going to be in there and people are going to be like, whoa, this kid is nuts, or he's going to be struggling. Not to say that he won't, like he might still be in the AHL, but he'll be very, very good in the AHL. Like we'll still be able to see where he is.
I hope it's a 7-year one and he plans out and Sam's like, I knew it. 7 years. He can be 25 and you're still going to be.
Yeah. And I'll still believe in the talent of him. He's got such a rare mind for the game that I don't have. Those are the type of players that I just refuse to give up on.
No, I mean, when they think the game that way, it's hard not to kind of give up on them. So, all right, guys, before we finish up with Sam, and we talk about kind of some bigger draft things, I talk about which players have risen the most for him in this draft, including Oliver Moore and Gavin Brindley. Do need to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at Athletic Greens. Today's episode is brought to you by AG1 by Athletic Greens. The grip of winter is finally being loosened. You may be trying to get back into a more exercise and healthy lifestyle. What better way to pair with some new exercise habits than a daily dose of nutritional insurance in the form of AG1? With one delicious scoop of AG1 in a glass of water each day, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. It's also lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good and supporting better sleep quality, recovery, mental clarity, and alertness. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs through the first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, let's talk some bigger draft stuff. So we've kind of, a lot of seasons are wound down, right? We're in the CHL playoffs here. NCAA is over. Like a lot of the European leagues have finished up or finishing up right now. Which players, since you kind of maybe end of the summer last year, beginning of the year, which player do you think has risen the most for you? I'm going to say non-Michkov, because I know I talked about Michkov last time, and that's basically what we talked about the entire episode. Go check that out. Which guy do you think has kind of risen up your personal boards the most?
Oliver Moore, probably.
Okay.
You could almost, it's funny, it's not an exact replica, but you could play our episode about Brad Lambert last year, and a lot of it applies to Moore. He is like that type of skater, though. It's the same argument, man. That type of skating in transition, good luck. It's just good luck. If they know how to just change lanes and use their lateral mobility and work give and go passing lanes and know when to slow down, which Moore, not unlike Lambert, especially because he made a lot of progress this year, guys.
We still believe.
Oh, absolutely. Not even no hesitation.
Hesitation. Yes.
Moore does slow up quite a bit. Oliver Moore is amazing because Will Smith, who he plays with, is like one of the fanciest players I've ever seen. We're talking like the Zegras Johnson style fancy. And Moore is still, I think, better at getting stuff done because Moore is such a gifted skater that everything Smith does, he's like dangling the pants off of 3 guys in a row. Moore does it all with his feet because nobody can even get in position to stop him. And then the last guy is just like, and Moore just does a cool little trick. And that's all he needs. I think it's less that he grew on. Like, he was such a gifted skater at the beginning of the year. He was such an interesting story. They started him on wing, and I was told that he's a natural center and that he was really not uncomfortable. That's not the right word, but I could tell he prefers
playing center. Yeah.
Yeah. He was getting used to leading into the zone as the puck carrier. Not that he was incapable. He was still actually doing the right thing way more often than not, but it was just, it was mid first round talent. I was excited, but he wasn't getting into dangerous areas as much. I felt like his controlled transition numbers, like the Scouch data, rest in peace.
R.I.P. Scouch.
R.I.P.
Yes.
The Scouch data was always amazing for Moore all year. From game one, it was great. And it was just like a question of like, can he be more than a puck mover? And then he got moved back to center and showed that like if the wingers are up there giving him any sort of lane to read, he will shred everyone on the ice easily without ever leaving the middle, going to the perimeters, fly around. He dominates in a way that very few people can stop. He's already better skater than a lot of good players in the NHL. He is like almost a sure thing in terms of like, you're getting a good player no matter what. You might, and the upside is also as high as anybody's. He's kind of like Matt Barzal almost in some ways. Like with the way he just carves up the ice, which is the same comparison that was used for Lambert. So it's like, I feel like the same, like the skating stride's not the same, but the general effect, like if you got rush patterns of these players going up the ice, Moore and Barzal would look pretty similar. He's quite awesome. He's number 1. Gavin Brindley's number 2, though, the guy who played with Fantilli all year. He was... Good
friend Tony Ferrari was very high on him as well, and I think
especially
the playoffs, the NCAA playoffs, that he had himself a very nice showing as well too.
Yes, he did. He is probably one of the best examples of a guy who just, I won't even say he improved, because it kind of like from the very beginning of the year, I had him like 13, 14, because I was like, man, you were just kind of impressive with everything, and it was all just like, there's nothing stopping you from doing more. You literally just need to do it. So let's just see how that goes. And that's all the year was. It wasn't him learning new things. I don't even think it was him adding new things. I think it was just simply him going like, all right, time to do this one now. The World Juniors was like the best story. Like, people were still a bit questioning his offensive upside. So he goes to the World Juniors, makes the team, not expected to do so whatsoever. I wanted to put him on the team and didn't even do him on like my roster because I thought he wasn't going to make it. Yeah. Makes it anyways. Fourth line, not a problem. Really good performance. Third line, then it's top 6. Then it's just like, and he kept changing his role to fit the line, but no matter what, just improve the results so cleanly because everyone played off of him. Goes back to Michigan, stapled with Fantilli, goes on a production rampage. Rush offense, cycle offense. He's just built he's the epitome of a small guy built to play against bigger competition. He's kind of like Logan Stankoven in that regard. They don't play the same. Stank kind of hunts contact. Brindley doesn't, but Brindley just dances off of it. But he's so used to having pressure on him and just knows how to find space. There's a play in the playoffs where he kind of just like flies up the middle of the ice and he gets a pass and he completely flubs the reception. And he's just like, uh-oh. And he just like backhands it, no looks it, and sets up a goal anyways. And he's just like, oh, cool, still made that work. Clearly was not his intended play, but like still made it work.
Yeah, and with him too, it's interesting because like with Recker, Begordy was supposed to kind of be, that 2C for Fantilli, right? And he missed the first half of the season. Like you said, he kind of just slides in there, does what's asked of him, does a good job, and then okay, Recker's back. I'm gonna go play with Fantilli now and just be awesome. And it's having guys like that who can kind of be whatever you need them to be on your team. That flexibility is just amazing for roster building.
Yeah, he's like neck and neck with Will Smith for me. I think I'll always lean Smith. I lean Smith because Smith has got that Zegras style creativity.
Yeah,
like in a weaker draft, I don't see any situation where I don't see Smith as like a third or fourth overall level prospect. It's just the top end of this draft is insane. Like Oliver Moore and Zach Benson are also insane prospects, and you can't underrate any of those 7. And then Gavin Brindley is like the guy who's like just behind them, but still
he was like, okay, maybe late first round, and it's like maybe he could slide to the Sharks at the end. No, that's not happening anymore.
No, he still might because he's got the small thing, but unlike Cristal and Jaden Perron and a lot of the other small guys who are just awesome, they were likely to slip anyways. He played NCAA. He did really well at the World Juniors. He has like those accolades that they look for that like, oh, well, this small player has checked these boxes off, so he'll go high in the draft. Brindley's checked them all off, so I think he will end up going kind of high. But I don't know. I'm curious. I think he should do it. I would be like, if I'm an NHL GM, I'm not even sure I would take Cristal at 10 myself, even though I have him there, just because you're always trying to maximize value. And, the downside between Cristal and Ryan Leonard's not that big. So if I take Ryan Leonard, I don't get Cristal, I'm not upset. But if I get Cristal later on and I get Leonard, I'm stoked. If I get Brindley at 11 on the choice, I'm just taking Brindley. I'm not playing the is he going to fall game. I'm taking him and I'm going, oh my God, I'm so happy.
Gavin Brindley on the Canucks. Nothing bad could ever happen with the Canucks prospect, right? Yeah.
Why? Why did no? Why did I say 11?
Take-a-thon is just embedded in it's always up. All right. So the big question, where does Andrew Cristall go in this year's draft?
Late first is going to be my guess. After Brad Lambert fell to 30, man, we all need to accept that this is going to happen every year, and it's going to blow our minds every year. But there's a reason why it happens in some cases. I still don't think Lambert was one of them, but I think Cristal is going to be one of those warranted cases. It's so easy for people in the public to not understand the pressure of an NHL. You can't miss, and it does not look good for you. Even if Cristal is in the AHL looking awesome at 20 years old, if Ryan Leonard's in the NHL and has 20 goals, it still doesn't look good on you. And you have to wait 3 more years for that to come back on you, not to mention anything that could have, maybe you don't get the same level of influence at the table next. These are all things that people consider. This is their livelihood, right?
Yep.
I can't say that I would take them there if I had.
Then Columbus, top 4 pick, right? This year is their number 2 right now. They have the Kings pick at 23.
They could do it.
That would, again.
After they took Matejchuk, I would have never mocked that to them in a million years. So I'm convinced they will take anybody at this point.
Love it. All right. And last time we asked you who's the best player in the draft 5 years from now with Anand Bedard. 5 years from now, who's the player in the late first round, early second round that we're like, how did this guy slide here?
Gavin Brindley if he slides. Gavin Brindley if he slides. And if not, it's Andrew. Like, it's Brindley and Cristal and Jaden Perron.
I do like Jaden Perron as well too.
Jaden Perron is awesome.
Yes. All right, Sam, you said it all. Where can the people find you?
Twitter at Sam_McGilligan, McGilligan. I have to spell that. SamMcGilligan.substack.com. McKeen's Hockey, Puck Preps. That is it. That's where you can find me. I don't have an expensive Rolodex like that.
That's not like our good old friend Will Scout, who had the whole,
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Thanks, buddy. Until next time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Sam McGilligan about Andrew Cristall. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely a risk with him, but I think if you're a team like the Sharks, who has one or has two, maybe if they trade Carlson, has three potential first-round picks, he could be one of those guys where, again, we're looking back and going, wow, how did he get, slide to 20, 28, wherever the Sharks may be picking. But super fun player. Thanks to Sam for jumping on. I'm going to definitely have Sam on again. He's, good guy to talk hockey with. So make sure you are following along wherever you get podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can also watch on YouTube as well. Make sure you guys just subscribing. That way whenever new episodes drop. Be back tomorrow on Wednesday to talk about a big question around Tomas Hertl. If this is time to worry, or if this is just a bump in the road for Hertl, as he is in year one of an 8-year, just finished up year one of an 8-year contract. So going to be digging into Tomas Hertl season and where things will go from here. So until then, make sure you're following me on Twitter at MyFryhole, and we'll be back tomorrow. Bye, friends.